Really appreciate it. Understanding if the business requirements have changed and have we been able to pivot, right, with those business requirements. Those are the reasons primarily why projects change. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of project managers that are able to help pivot the project based on what is going on, and also uh, confer with the stakeholders and say, look, here's my understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. Here's my understanding of what the deliverables will be. And there's a huge delta here. A lot of times, project managers are more focused on capturing things, communicating it out, um, filling the issue log, the risk register, but not a lot of time problem solving. And this is one of the things that I hope that in the course of us being here together, I hope that I've given you guys and hopefully, continue to provide more tools that you can use as you're dealing with your stakeholders, as you're managing the projects. Especially in healthcare, we don't have the luxury to fail with these big projects because our ultimate clients are the patients. And so the money that should have been used for getting more resources or better equipment is used because of rework or scrap or just a lot of requirements that might not have been needed, or we're focusing too much on problems that aren't really the problem at hand. So um, it's it's a it's a mindset that we need to shift to move from being managers of projects to really think about being leaders of projects and work with the stakeholders and also invest time in understanding why is it that we're doing this and not all of the other projects, right? So what makes this special? And really being at the table. And this is what will make your careers as well more resilient, because the work of assigning tasks, creating timelines, moving timelines when things change, AI will be able to do that really well. Where there will be a gap is understanding your stakeholders and making sure that what we're creating aligns with what the stakeholders want. So project managers who are able to have that skill set, I think will flourish. If your skill set is more focused on, MS Project, then that will be really challenging because AI will be able to do most of that. So let me try to see what we haven't covered yet. Um, we'll go through some of the removing impediments here, and we'll talk about diversity awareness and behavioral modeling more here in a second. So we talked about leadership and what you guys have found to be helpful types of leadership. And one of the things that I hear a lot from people who um, want to be leaders, and for those who are familiar with HIMSS, the Healthcare Technology Group, I've been the past president and I've been on the board for 11 years now. And so all the up and coming folks who want to be on the board and want to help with this, the question I get is, what is the best type of a leader? And I think the worst thing, or not worse, but one of the things that does not help is for you to try to be a leader that you're not. And let me explain that. So there are different types of leaders. You have, for example, the leaders that are like Bill Gates, who are maniacal about the details, right? And then you have leaders like Steve Jobs, who focus more on the bigger vision, on the user experience. You have leaders like Larry Ellison, who focuses more on the competitive advantage. He's so competitive, as you guys might know. He at what, 81 or 82, he's still competitively sailing, right? So the different leaders have different approaches. Tim Cook, for example, he is obsessed with logistics, right? That is his main thing, and understanding supply chain. And then you have people who uh, are more focused on manufacturing, and Elon actually is one of the best examples of manufacturing prowess. So depending on what your expertise are and what comes natural to you, that is the best type of leadership style for you. So Lizette, for you, for example, are you more introverted or extroverted?
I think introverted.
Introverted. Okay. Are you more big picture or are you more analytical?
Um, Big picture.
Big picture. So introverted, big picture. Um, are you more of an inventor doing things that never been done before? Or are you an innovator, someone who likes to improve upon what's already there?
Probably innovate. Yeah, inner. Wait, what were my
Inno-
choices? Uh,
Innovator,
yeah,
inventor or innovator?
innovator.
Innovator, right? So that actually is very similar to Steve Jobs, right? He can do big presentations, but he's very introverted. Um, he is more of a big thinker, and he's not actually an inventor. If you think about the iPhone, that wasn't the first smartphone by any stretch. If you think of the iPad, that wasn't the first tablet, and obviously same thing with the Apple laptop. So he's an amazing innovator, right? So you want to double down on what comes natural to you, right? Um, let's go with Leona.
Yes.
Are you a risk taker or are you more cautious? Which one would you say you are?
Hmm. You know, it's interesting because when it comes to improvement
Mm-hmm.
and process improvement and overall making improvements, I feel like I could be seen as more as a risk taker, right? But
Okay.
I do have a general cautiousness, if you will. Um, yeah, about like, okay, and not about cautiousness. It's more of like being cautious, but being conscious of what could go wrong, but not just that, of like, if this would happen, like, what's our plan? Like, what's our alternative plan? And so I have to preface that because I think that there are multiple interpretations of what cautious could be. So I needed to explain that as I answered my question.
So let me ask a different question. Would you be interested in doing projects that are high risk, high reward, let's say rockets? Or are you more interested in doing projects that, not projects, but like leading companies that, let's say, Whole Foods?
The latter.
Whole Foods. Okay. Okay.
Hmm. Only if I get
Um,
a discount.
yeah. If you're a Prime member. Um, so are you someone who likes multiple projects or initiatives at the same time? Or would you rather be like a Moderna that's focusing on one thing but going really deep into it?
Um, Really, the sweet spot is in between. But if I had to choose, it would be going deep.
Going deep.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the reason and when you're asking me these questions, I have to say that it's this vacillation because when you are going back to what you were saying about leadership and being able to sort of like operate in your strengths and your skill set versus when you have to adapt
Right.
and deal with the ambiguity and then you learn skills. Sometimes those worlds can mesh, at least in my experience, right? And so when I've often had to show up in and manage multiple projects at the same time. And then but there's still a drive for me. What the challenge is that sometimes because of the project or the project requires to go deep, but because of what the needs are or trying to articulate why we need to go deep, because there may be a high risk if we don't plan this appropriately, trying to navigate in all of those different rooms at the same time.
That makes a lot of sense. And the reason I ask that is because if you have a penchant for starting things and that's where you get your energy from, then you need a very strong COO who, once it's up and running, you can delegate that to that person, and then you can move on to another big, hairy, audacious goal, right?
Hmm.
While others, like say Warren Buffett, for example, he likes to go deep, right? Like it took him decades before he even thought about investing in Microsoft. And Bill Gates is one of his best friends, right?
Hmm.
So he's not one to be jumping around. He likes to go deep. So the point I'm trying to make is a lot of people look at YouTube videos and look at, social media and say, I want to be like that person, right? When in reality, you need to look inward and see what comes easy for you and how can you build upon that, because if that's not what comes natural, then you will be exhausted because it's not aligned with your core strength. So doing the work of understanding that, and as you're, let's say you're looking through the news, um, looking at different companies or in the organization, make it a task to just ask yourself, is this something I'd be interested in? And that will also help you understand, what comes natural for you and what doesn't. And there is no right or wrong answer, right? Um, for example, uh, Edward, would you be more interested in taking over Versace or Home Depot?
Jeez, probably neither. No, Home Depot.
Home Depot, right? Um, Versace is not a bad company, right? But it doesn't seem to align with what you would want.
I
And
mean, I'd like to live in Italy, but yeah,
yeah.
that's an option.
So so the point I'm trying to make is you want to be okay, what would a good Home Depot CEO look like? What strengths and look at what you have and build upon that versus trying to, figure out the winter fashion, right? So so that is the answer. So the answer is looking at what comes natural to you and what are the things that you can build upon. Now, the million dollar question is always, okay, so should I focus on my strengths and make it stronger, or should I shore up my weaknesses and focus on that, right? That's a question that a lot of people ask. And my response to that is you need to be good enough with your weaknesses. For example, let's say that public speaking isn't your strength. You need to be good enough to be able to articulate, your ideas, but you don't need to be, and you won't be a Tony Robbins, right? So if writing is something that you're not good at, you need to be good enough so people can understand you when you do emails, or if you want to do newsletters, or post on social media. But you're not going to be Malcolm Gladwell, right? And that's okay. So I would say for your weaknesses, try as much as you can to get it to a level that is okay or good enough, or 5 out of 10, and then invest your energy in your strengths. I think it was Michael Jordan who said, people don't remember all of the winning shots that he missed, which is actually more than the winning shots that he made, right? People remember your strengths, people remember your successes ultimately. And so you get to that by focusing, doubling down on what you're good at. And as you know, for some of you who might know, when he played baseball for, I don't know, was it a year or two? Um, that was so miserable to watch. He wasn't good at it, right? And so the Michael Jordan of baseball is not Michael Jordan, right? It's someone else. So making sure that you shore up your weaknesses just enough that you can perform the day-to-day task, but doubling down on your strength. That is, in my mind, the best allocation. You can't miss the session. Don't take, yep, that's right. That is him. All right. So we talked about the different leadership skills here. Um, is there anything that you want us to spend some time on, or more time, since we've talked about mostly all of them? You guys are good? All right. Diversity awareness and cultural competencies. So, in a global marketplace, um, it's best to learn as much as possible about different cultures. And I always recommend this book to people. And I hope you check it out. It's an old book, but it's still pretty good. It's called Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands. What do you do when you meet different people, right? Which cultures kiss on the cheek when they meet?
Italians?
Italians, yep.
Yeah.
I think the French do too, right? How about bow?
Japanese.
Japanese, right? And shake hands is pretty much everyone else. Another thing to add, I mean, obviously not the title of this book, but hugging, right? Some cultures, like uh, Latin American cultures, there's a lot of hugging involved. While for other cultures, there's not. So you need to understand, um, And also for you, when someone comes up to you and, you know, hugs you, like, no, like, oh, they're, not going for your wallet. They're just wanting to, that's what they do. They go for a hug. So it's a really good book if you guys have time, and it's like a few pages per country. So it's very helpful, especially if you're new to a different country or new to a different group. So understanding different motivation, working styles, understanding different leadership styles. There's one of my favorite stories was this US company that went to Japan and they presented, and then the Japanese people were just nodding and saying yes. And so they came back to the US and reported to their leadership team and said, man, it was the easiest sales pitch. They were just saying yes. And then the Japanese, reached out by email and said, thank you for your time. You flew out to Japan and all of that. But we're going with a different vendor. And they were so confused. Like, you were nodding and saying yes all the time. What happened? Like, what did we miss? Turns out in Japan, when they nod and say yes, it means yes, I understand. It doesn't necessarily mean yes, I agree. So that was a huge disconnect. And and so, knowing that, they 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 will not tell you to your face, I disagree with you. And that is a very more of a Western culture thing. But they will say if they understand you or not. So these nuances help if you know that. So that book has been really helpful for me, and I hope you find it helpful as well. So leading and managing, there's a lot of, again, posts around leadership and management, and the fact of the matter is we need both of them. I don't know if you guys see it too on LinkedIn. They're like almost disparaging managers, and they're uplifting leaders, but they're different skill sets, and we need both. So management, using positional power, leadership influence. Management focuses more on maintaining, leadership developing, so on and so forth. So you need both, right? If you have a company that has good leadership, you might get people excited and you might start, but you need management to ensure that it continues, right? And then you get to delivery. That's management. Steve Jobs was an amazing leader, and he had Tim Cook to do his management. So that was an amazing partnership. And now that, Steve has been gone, um, there hasn't really been a lot of like breakthrough innovations at Apple because Tim Cook was not that. He wasn't the dreamer, right? He was the logistics guy. So um, you can see, with what happened to Apple after he left. They're still widely successful, but you don't see the innovation that Steve had. So you need both. You need someone who's the big dreamer, inspires, and can get people excited, and then you need people who make sure that things get done. And this is one of my favorite differentiations. If you look at leadership, it says do things right, right? So we're doing things right, and management is leadership is do the right things, right? Direction, purpose, North Star. And management is do things right. So you need leadership first to say, we're going to do this, right? And management follows behind to make sure that whatever that is, we do correctly. Does that make sense? So leaders make sure that we do the right things, and management makes sure that we do things right. Leadership traits. So it all starts, if you think of it as from a foundational perspective, it's your character, right? Your integrity. And integrity is, what you think, what you say, and what you do are as aligned as possible. And then from that foundation, you go into your interpersonal skills, how you collaborate, bring people together, motivate. And then during the actual work, problem solving, analytical skills, conceptualizing things. Those are the three broad strokes that good leaders have: good ethics, good morals. They can connect with people, and they can also talk about big ideas, and also break them down using analytical skills. So servant leadership, this came about when leaders were seen as doing a lot of work, rolling up their sleeves, and not really being on an ivory tower, but coming down and doing the work alongside the people, right? So especially in healthcare, servant leadership is one of those types of leadership that has really taken off, because we're not just like generals barking orders. We're there in the battlefield alongside the other soldiers. So here's some of the things to remember. For servant leadership, you facilitate rather than manage. You provide coaching. You remove impediments. Focus on accomplishments. So a lot of it is almost more like a mentor coach type versus a leader subordinate type relationship. So challenge the status quo. We said earlier on that projects are about change, right? So with change, you need to have a growth mindset, continuous looking at ways to improve, to innovate. How can we do this better, right? So that should be always on your mind. And there's the external challenging the team, and there's also the introspection, looking inward, right? So what are the things I can do differently? What am I doing that's part of continuing the status quo? And the last one is insidious, avoiding complacency. So once you've achieved the goals, sometimes people become more lax on the quality control because, oh yeah, I can do this. So for those in sports, this would be skipping on the warm-ups, right? The stretching, all the prep work before you jump into the actual game, because you've never been hurt before. So for projects, this would be um, not being too rigorous around your testing since you've done it so many times. So making sure that you avoid complacency and also blind acceptance. So 360 view of stakeholders, who all is included and affected. So 360 looking at those above you, side to side would be your colleagues, and those below, anyone that reports up to you. And these are different models that, again, just examples. So direction of influence, saliency, power, urgency, legitimacy. So the difference between like a formal position versus informal. Here's your power impact grid, or power interest. So again, this specific examples might not come up on the test, but they just want you to know that there are different ways as a leader that you can engage the different stakeholders that you have. Team building. It is hard to build a team if you don't have a unifying message. And if you look at, for example, political personalities who win, they have this ability of having a clear message that excites people and prompts them to take action, right? whether it's Ronald Reagan to Obama. Um, it's regardless of the political affiliation or underneath all that is someone who's action. So these are the same things that we need in order to create a team that works together. And the more that we can articulate why the project is important, why this initiative makes sense, and what it contributes in this case for us to UCLA, then the more you can get the team to coalesce and work together as one unit. Without that, it's really hard because we're all, very unique individuals, different motivations, and it's that unifying message that can help the team work together. So team building, having rewards, recognition, um, the difference between the two, rewards are tangible, recognition obviously intangible. Rewards are typically for specific outcomes. Recognition is more just acknowledging the person or the effort put in. Rewards are usually at the end of a specific milestone or project. Recognition, you can do it anytime. And rewards usually expected when a goal is met. Recognition is usually not expected by the person getting it. So as PMs, we have more control around recognition than rewards. So be, generous, but also authentic as you start giving recognition. And recognition increases the recipient's feeling of appreciation, right? And rewards motivate towards a specific outcome. There was this, this is an example of when rewards go wrong. There was this company that was trying to foster team building in his company, but the rewards was the highest salesperson was going to get a trip to Cancun, right? Well, you're incentivizing individual success, right? That doesn't really help with the team building. So if you're trying to go for team building, then the rewards should be based upon the team that does, whatever the work is. So like maybe highest sales quarter for the region, right? So that gets the team working together. But in this case, the manager made it individual. Well, that led to even less team building because then, you're incentivizing the individual and not necessarily the team. So make sure that the rewards bring about the behavior that you want. Leading a team, we talked about emotional intelligence, and that starts out with active listening. That includes empathy. That includes trying to understand where the other person is coming from as much as you can and articulating it back, right? Making sure that you capture and allow for feedback, right? Versus just talking to people about what you think should be done since you're the leader. Good communication, we talked about. Monitor performance of the team. A sign of a good leader is someone that can notice a shift in behavior even when the outcomes haven't been affected yet. So let's say Kenny is still doing the work, but you notice that he's not cracking jokes as much as he used to, or he's not participating as much as he used to, or maybe he's running a few minutes late and he's usually, Johnny on the spot. All of these changes, a good leader will notice and pull Kenny aside and say, hey, man, just, what's going on? Things okay with you, the family, everything okay? And Kenny, be like, well, why? I'm completing all my tasks and all of that. And if you bring up the fact, no, your work is stellar, but I just noticed a change in your behavior, in your attitude. Nothing bad. I just want to make sure that if there's anything I can do to help. I just noticed that you're a little quiet, and you're usually, the one that cracks jokes and makes things light. So if you want to talk, I'm here. But no, you're doing fine. I just want to let you know that I see you, and come to me if there's anything I can do. So catching those things before, Kenny's missing days of work or anything like that is an excellent sign of a good leader, and something that we can all do better, right? And those few minutes in the beginning of a meeting, right, where you're checking in with people, use that to get a sense of what people are doing, in their private lives, and get a sense of how they're doing, period. Supporting team performances. So we talked about the RACI method. Can anyone tell me what RACI stands for again? The letters.
Is it responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed?
That's correct. So which letter does the work? The actual fingers to keyboard, hand on hammer. The R, the A, the C, or the I?
The
The R.
R.
The R.
The R. Mhm.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right.
Like a
Yeah.
pirate. R. Um, oof. Which one is, as they say, um, the person whose name is on the line for the initiative?
A.
Affirmative.
Absolutely.
Accountable.
Where would your subject matter experts be under?
Consultant.
You're reaching out for advice. Yep,
Consult.
consult. Yep.
B.
And these are, mostly the broader stakeholder group, just letting them know what's up. But letter would
I.
sure. Aye, absolutely. All right. So KPIs, key performance indicators. So this is to evaluate the progress, right? How are we doing? My recommendation is use as little KPIs as possible so that you're focusing on the most important thing. So let's say, for example, for your health, you have a lot of devices that can track a lot of things for your health, but instead of trying to track, your heart rate variability and 100 other things, how about starting with sleep? Do you get, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night? If the answer to that is no, then just track that for now, right? And improve that. So, and then you go to what's the next, KPI in your health, for example, that is an issue that you know of. Maybe it's exercise. So track every week. How many times did you go out and did, an hour of exercise? So maybe it's 4 times a week. So you don't need to track your lap intervals at that point. Does that make sense? Because you're not there yet, right? If you barely go out and do the runs that you want, then tracking your laps is not something that you need to do at that point in time. So you want to make sure that your KPIs tracks what you need at that point in time. So having an overload of dashboards and things to track does not help anyone. It looks good when you submit your reports, but it's not helpful in terms of measuring what matters. So we talked about this earlier, having a healthy culture that allows people to raise their hands and talk about any issues or problems that they might have. It's also helpful to have a culture that supports autonomy, where you can make mistakes, you can make decisions, and also a shared sense of responsibility. We're all in this together. We're all trying to move the needle in the right direction. Team structure in workplaces. So nowadays, there's a huge blur between, workspace, right? A lot of people are working remotely from different parts of the world. No worries, Edward. And different time zones. So the focus now should be more on the deliverable versus how the work is done, right? Because people are working in different areas, different time zones, different ways of doing things. But the most important thing is the work getting done in a timely manner with the quality that you want it to be, right? Before, the focus was butt and seat. I worked in this organization, and I kid you not, at 4 o'clock, someone would go around to make sure that you are in your chair, right? You could be on, at the time, Farmville was the all the rage. You could be playing Farmville on Facebook. It doesn't matter as long as they saw you in your cubicle. And that was really sad, right? Because you're not part of the organization to physically be there. You're part of the organization to provide value, right? Whatever that value is. But yeah, so times have changed. So those are some of the good things that came about with us being more virtual, is the focus is on the work being done. All right. There is the benefit, I believe, to having shared workspaces where informal collaboration, this is where, hey, I was thinking about, and they can just share that. So having that balance is really important. All right. Thanks, Carlin. So we talked about this, contributing from anywhere around the world, empowering unity, sense of ownership of the work, right? And collaboration, which we did talk about. And autonomy, what are the things that they can do by themselves, and so that they can get into what's called deep work, right? So the sense of, spending hours focusing on a task, knowing that they can, these are the parameters of what they can work on. So hopefully they can get into what's called a state of flow, right? Where you're just focusing on the task, focusing on the work, and hours have gone by and it feels like it's just been a few minutes. Um, Keeping the tone positive and fluid. So there's always two ways to look at information, right? You can look at what's wrong with things, or you can look at what's right with things, and it could be the same thing, right? You can focus on, let's say there are 4 positive things and 6 negative. You can spend a lot of energy on the 4 positive or a lot of energy on the 6 negative. So this is not about blind optimism or not paying attention to the negative, but it's more about, okay, what can we do? And having that continuous sense of, being able to leapfrog these obstacles in front of you. Team building activities, formal, informal. I think, going out for lunch, having offsite activities, and it doesn't need to be expensive. Before, I was working in this organization, and we would do a lot of Dave and Buster's. I don't even know if that's still around on Fridays. It was like David Buster's Fridays, and it was fun, right? And just being able to get to know your team members on a personal level is very helpful. Any team building exercises, guys, that you've done recently that you found to be helpful in terms of team building?
I have one.
Go for it.
There was we all work remotely, and so in order for us to see each other, we meet once to twice a year. And during the summer, and we are all women.
Oh,
Yeah,
which
and so
department is this?
it's so tiny. We're brand new, 2 years and a half. It's the intensive case management department.
Hmm.
Um, and so we're the medical group. And so what happens is that the all the women get together, and we just want to bring down all barriers. So what we had was we pinned a paper behind our backs,
Okay.
just knowing what we know of it. And mind you, some individuals are coming from other states. So we had to go around with different colors of pens, so nobody knew who was who. And you just write one word that describes them as how you know them remotely. This was our very first,
Mm. I
and
love that.
yeah, our very first meet, our very first exercise. And so it was nice once you take off the paper, there's just a bunch of nice words that describe you, or they should be nice. Yeah. And everybody writes so different, right? So you can't tell. It's on your back. It's not a stable I don't know, paper or whatever. Or so nobody wrote the way you thought they write. You don't know how they write your first,
Mm.
so you can't tell. But it's just nice confirmation, that even though you're working remotely, like, people do appreciate you. Then they do see these good qualities in you.
What did they say about you?
Um, Let me pull it out.
Oh, you have it. Oh,
I
that's pretty
actually
cool.
I kept it. Yeah. It's just a nice reminder.
Absolutely.
Um, it says that they love how I have light. They love
Mm.
how I shine with the Lord. They know I'm Christian. And so it says charismatic, passionate for helping others, beautiful smile, smart
Mm.
and loving, passionate, calm, professional, can do, kind, and approachable, highly dependable, always a great open attitude, efficient, organized. That's what I have. It's really nice. Then this is our first time meeting. So
Wow.
it was wonderful. Everybody was like, oh, we all kind of bonded a little bit more.
Which one of those do you resonate with the most?
My God comes first.
Mm. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And they pointed it out, so that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's
really
nice.
good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so anything that you can do, and that didn't cost anything, right? So so it doesn't have to be cost prohibitive. Um, Anything that you can do to get the team, and there are some things that you can do remotely as well. And next time you meet with Michelle, ask her for suggestions because she does a lot of things for school for the students, and they're fun activities. Um, all right. Perform assessment task. How did you do performance to goals, clarifying roles and responsibilities, delivering positive and also negative feedback. So which feedback do you deliver in public? Positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive.
positive,
Yep.
and criticisms you deliver in private. Uh, awesome. So team development, this is not linear, right? There's ebbs and flows. Sometimes the team works really well, and the next week they're at each other's throat. And just know that that's just how teams work, right? What is important that needs to be consistent is the respect, um, and also the professionalism that they bring, even though they might disagree, passionately. Acknowledge diversity, and knowing that, all of this requires work. It's not a one and done. So here's something that you do have to remember for the test. And then we'll take a quick break and we'll just do this first. So this is what's called Tuckman's ladder. So the first part is forming. This is when teams get to know each other, introductions and all of that. The second is storming. This is when, people try to assert, try to figure out, who does what. This is where usually there's, a little bit of friction. And then there's norming. This is when the teams start to work together. And then the highest part is performing, right? This is where you're rowing at the same pace and optimize productivity. And then the last one is adjourning. This is when, complete the task and you're gone for the day. So I am going to call out a stage and you guys yell out what stage it is. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, so this is when team members begin to assert themselves.
Storming.
Storming. This is when team members begin to work productively.
Norming.
This is when the teams first get to know each other.
Forming.
Forming, yep. And this is when the team is disbanded.
Joining.
Adjourning. Yep, cool. So with that, let's take a quick 10-minute stretch break. And when we come back, we'll finish up module 4, part A. And maybe we can hit up a few slides on 4 part B, and we'll jump into the weekend. So I'll see you guys back here in 10 minutes. All right. Good news, guys, is we're actually a little bit ahead because um we have, I know, right? We This is for part A, and we only have for part B for next week and then 5. So we're okay with finishing up 4.A, and we'll pick up for part 2 next week. So might be able to give you guys a few minutes back in your day so you can jump into the weekend. So unless there's any objections, happy to. I think Cinderella wants to wait till 4:59. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Awesome. So, any questions with our forming to adjourning? Pretty good?
Good.
Perfect.
Yeah. Good.
Manage with objectives. A lot of times after, the leader has a great idea what to do, it's not followed with clear objectives, and then people get confused. And so it's very important that you revisit the objectives of your project or initiative and make sure that everyone understands it, right? And this might sound very basic, but if you look at a lot of companies that have failed over the years, what you'll find is over time, the objectives have changed, and that objective wasn't shared with everyone. And so you have severe um, fracturing within the organization. A good example of this is GE. So if you guys look at the history of GE, there was a time under Jack Welch where they were doing really well. This was back, I think it was CEO, like 80s to 2000, somewhere there. And then after that, they slowly started to get into things that they weren't really good at. And so they went from being, one of the most admired companies to having to sell bits and pieces of their company just to stay afloat, and had to do massive layovers. So somewhere along the way, they lost sight of their objectives. And when that happens at the top, it has a huge repercussion to the organization. So feedback, as the project lead, it is incumbent upon you to always be soliciting feedback from the team and sharing that feedback, with different stakeholders, and vice versa. So people, are genuinely nice, and they don't want to give negative feedback, but you have to frame it along the lines of constructive criticism, things that will help us do better and improve. So, and I like the feedback that Cinderella, you mentioned earlier, the writing on the back, that was really good. And you even kept it. So it's
It just reminds you,
absolutely. We did that exercise in college, and I still remember some of the things that folks wrote on my back. So for whatever reason, that exercise is really profound. It
Mhm.
stays with you.
Yeah.
So performance tracking techniques. So these are different tools, Kanban boards, throughput metrics, cycle times. So it's important to get familiar with these tools. There's no one tool that works for everything. It all depends upon, again, what there's this book called Measure What Matters. Put it in the chat. It's a great book that really focuses on minimalism when it comes to tracking things, because you want to track, we have a limited attention span and even shorter ability to remember um, details in the past. So you want you want to be very mindful of your focus and in the focus of the team. And there was this line that I heard way back when that stuck with me. This was early 2000s. We had a speaker. I was working at St. Joe's at the time. And the speaker said, where attention goes, energy flows, and results show. And I keep going back to that. And that was like, 21 years ago. And I was, early in my career. And that, for whatever reason, just is so powerful. And it's the same thing that applies to performance tracking. What you focus on is where people's energy goes into, and that's where you see results. So if you want to see results, start measuring it, right? There was this study that was done, two groups around Christmas. One group was given a task of weighing themselves every day, and the other group, wasn't. And no changes to diet or exercise or whatever. Just the only thing that they changed was weight, stepping on the scale. And after 6 weeks, the group A lost about 4 pounds in 6 weeks. And group B, well, this was around the holidays, they gained around 3 pounds. So what happened was, people step on the scale and then they're like, oh man, I really need to cut down. So as they're eating, instead of ordering that second serving or getting dessert or whatever the case might be, they remembered, right, that measurement from the morning, and they started to make, small adjustments around the edges. But those small adjustments ended up being on average 4 pounds in 6 weeks. That's pretty good. So making sure that you track what is important to your group. And these are just examples of those, right? And also, whatever the organization is used to looking at. If it's traffic lights, the green, yellow, red, go with that. If it's bar charts, go with that. If it's pie charts. So whatever the organization is used to looking at. Monetary value of the work contribution. So, other organizations really look at the monetary value. If you're, let's say, for example, in the insurance industry or you're in sales, so, Wall Street, obviously, or the financial industry, where money, the monetary value is what you focus on. That's another way of using it. For healthcare, we obviously bill patients and whatnot, but on the projects that we do, it's not necessarily, the financial outcome. Like if you're doing a server upgrade, it's hard to tie in like, oh, okay, so, because of we did this server upgrade that we're making more money. So that's not necessarily the case. So again, it depends on what measurement makes sense for your project. So earned value management. So this is a methodology that combines scope, schedule, and resource to assess project performance. And we did, I don't know if you guys remember this, a few sessions ago, we talked about the variances and indexes. Do you guys remember that? Where we did, so planned value is, authorized budget. Earned value is the measurement of work performed. So my memory serves me right. Remember we talked about like the building of 4 stories. I think it was like $1 million per story, right? And so if you finish 1 story, then that's your earned value. So if you finish 1 story, that's 1 million. If you finish 1.5, then your earned value is 1.5. So, this is the same thing. Uh, Planned value, what was budgeted, earned value is what you completed, and actual cost is, well, how much did it actually cost you, what came out of your wallet to do the work. So I'll give an example again. We can stick with the building example. So 4-story building, our budget is $1 million per story. So how much is the planned value for 4 stories? You guys can do it. We're
4
almost there.
million. 4 million.
4 million. Thank you, Kenny. I know it's hard this time of day to be doing math, but we'll get through it. So what if you completed 2 stories? What's the earned value?
2 million.
2 million, right? And actual cost, let's say that you're halfway through, you completed 2 stories, right? So you're halfway through. But you actually spent 2.5 million. So that's your actual cost, right? So the actual cost is usually just a given, how much you spent. So schedule variance. So here, this is the equation. Again, for variance, the operation is subtraction. For index, the operation is division. So schedule variance, earned value minus planned value. So positive. So these are things you need to remember. Positive is good. 0 means that you're, not late, not early, just right on time. And negative means you're behind. That means that what you've completed is less than what was planned, right? Schedule performance index, this is a measure of efficiency. So if your SPI is greater than 1, that means that what you've completed, right, EV, is greater than what was planned. That's great. If your EV is equal to your PV, then answer is 1, so you're right on track. That's also good. But if your earned value, what you completed, is less than what was planned, you do the math, then that's less than 1, so that's a bad thing. So so if you understand, even if you don't do the math just in your head, if what you completed is more than what was planned, that's a good thing. And so whether you subtract it for variance or divide it for an index, you can figure out what the numbers mean by just understanding or remembering that EV is what was completed, PV is what was planned, and AC is, what actually came out of your wallet, right? The actual cost. So we talked about schedule. It's the same thing for cost, right? So cost variance is EV, what was completed, minus your actual cost. So in the example we talked about, we completed 2 stories. So our EV is... We got 2 million. And what did we say our actual cost was for the 2 stories?
2.5, I think you said.
2.5, right? So even without doing the math, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad thing.
It's a bad thing, right? So, so just even without doing it, you can look at, okay, what I completed is less than my actual cost, so this is obviously going to be negative. So what's the answer? What's the cost variance with the example we just did? So 2 million minus 2.5. is
Negative
500
50. Yeah, negative.
negative, what's with him?
500,000.
Yeah.
I want to go shopping with you. Here's 100. Let's go to Costco. Yeah, so negative 500,000. So same thing with cost performance index, right? So if you do the math, 2 million divided by 2.5, that's going to be less than 1. So it's a bad thing. So even by just looking at the numbers, what PMI is more interested in is, do you understand what it means, right? So let's give a different example. So let's stay with the same thing, 4 stories, 1 million per story. We completed 2 stories. So what's our earned value?
2 million.
2 million. But in this case, let's say our actual cost was 1.8, right? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So if you do the cost variance, so 2 million minus 1.8, our cost variance is
Positive 200. We saved
positive 200,
200,000.
right? There you go. Yeah, so that's a good thing.
200,000, yeah.
So now let's do our cost performance index. So 2 million divided by 1.8. I actually don't know the answer to that. So let's do the math. So 2 divided by 1.8. So 1.1,
Yeah.
right?
Greater than, yeah.
So that's
Greater
a good,
than 1.0. Yeah, it's a good.
it's a good thing. So more than 1 is a good thing. 1 or more than 1 is a good thing. Less than 1 is a bad thing. So again, don't freak out about the calculation. Just understand what those words mean, and you don't even have to do the math. You can get to the answer. Does that make sense before we move on? All right, cool. All right, so for this part, know that you don't need to, it's one of those nice to know, but rarely does it come out in the test anymore. So this is one of those areas. Estimate at completion is the current projected final cost. So this is when you look at your budget at completion, this was the initial number that was given out, and CPI is how efficient are you with managing your money. So let's say that, okay, 4 million, right? So let's just do quick math here. So the building that we said, 4-story building, what was the total cost of the entire building?
4 million. That's what,
4 million, right? That's what we
yeah.
said. And we said our cost, our CPI, going back to this guy over here, our CPI, we said that it was 2 million divided by 1.8. So our CPI is 1.1, right? You guys follow me on that one?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now let's go to this calculation. So 4 million divided by 1.1. So our estimate at completion is, anyone with a calculator?
Curly, she said 3.33.
So, Curlin, so I got 3.6, but I didn't do the whole thing. I just, so 4,
3.63.
Yeah, I just did 4 divided by 1.2. So it's like 3.3 million, I'm guessing.
It was
correct.
1.1. Yeah, 3.60.
So did everyone get that? So budget at completion, in layman's terms, what does that mean? Budget at completion.
At the actual cost.
Yeah.
So budget
Estimate.
at completion, that was the what we initially budgeted for. So in the example of the building, so we said this would cost us, what was our initial estimate?
4 million.
4 million. Right. And then we said that we were, we finished 2 stories, but our actual cost was 1.8. So 2 divided by 1.8 gave us 1.1. So that was our CPI. Is everyone with me on that?
Yes.
So now we say 4 divided by 1.1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Get you-
I,
That's why you got the 3.36.
0.63. Yeah.
Yeah.
so,
EAC.
so 1 second. 2 divided by 1.8, 1.1. So, okay, so 4 divided by 1.1 equals 3.6. Did you guys get that?
That is correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Curlin just off by a little bit. So 3.6, but you're in the right direction. So that's what estimate at completion means. So knowing, like, because you use estimate at completion when you already started and you're like, Lana, hey, this is sounding really good. What, we're halfway through and you didn't spend 2 million, you only spent 1.8. So how much are we looking at by the time we complete the project? Right? So that's how the question is going to be phrased. The question won't be, what is the estimate at completion? No, it's going to be like that conversation. So now that you understand that estimate at completion means, well, how much is it going to cost by the time we're done, right? Knowing that we were ahead here, right? And finishing the second floor. So that's how the question will be asked. The next one is estimate at completion analysis. This is the estimate to complete. So this is the amount of money needed to complete the project. So what was our answer? So our estimate at completion was
0.63.
3.6. So let's just stick with 3.6, make it easy.
Okay.
So 3.6, right? So now the question is, so our estimate at so how much money do we need to complete the project, right? That's the question. So what you do is you look at your estimate at completion because we saved a little bit of money. So 3.6 minus, what did we say our actual cost was?
1.8.
1.8.
So 3.6 minus 1.8 is
1.7.
3.6 minus 1.8.
16. Oh my God. 1.8.
It's okay. It's all good. We're all tired. So basically ETC, right? They're not going to ask you what ETC is. They're going to ask you, so, oh my God, so how much money do I need to save or to keep to complete this project, right? So that's what estimate at completion, estimate to complete means. So amount of money needed to complete. So I already spent 1.8, and looking at this equation, which one is the 1.8?
ETC.
No. 1.8 is the money we
AC,
spent.
Actual
AC.
cost.
Actual cost. Very good. Which one in this equation talks about how much the entire project will be when it's done?
Yes. Okay. ETC.
EAC, estimate at
EAC.
completion.
Yeah.
Which one tells me how much money do I need to have in my Chase account to complete this building?
ETC.
ETC. Beautiful. Yep. Awesome. Wow. Even sleepy, you guys got it in record time. That's amazing. That's amazing. So yeah, so those were the, like, if you're gonna get any questions around equations, it's it. That was it. It's the variance, it's the index, it's the estimate to complete, and it's the estimate at completion. That was it. Not too bad. So these are the different types of reports. So information radiators, so big visual boards, display. So let's do this. Let's make this, let's do some homework. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Let's do 9 volunteers to research an example of these performance report types. So who wants to volunteer for information radiator?
I volunteer distribute.
Thanks, Patrick. Burn down chart. Who wants to volunteer for that? To just come up with one example and explain it to us.
You say you need 9 volunteers?
Yeah.
I can be one.
Okay, so Curlin, burn down chart. Who wants to do burn up chart?
I'll do it, Ian. I'll do a burn up.
All right, Elicio.
I'll do task board. I'll do the last one.
Cinderella task board. How about earned value management report? And you can just do one, don't need to make reports.
Okay.
All right, Kenny.
Earned value, correct?
Yeah, earned value, yeah. Variance analysis. Who wants to volunteer for that?
I'll do it.
That was
Jennifer P.
Jennifer. And work performance reports.
I'll do it.
Thanks, Lana. Quality reports. Okay, that one's too easy. Who wants to do a quality report?
Easy, I'll do it.
I was waiting for Victor.
That's what I was waiting on.
Louder for folks in the back. Dashboard, any type of dashboard would do. Just one more volunteer, guys. Nikki, are you still on? I think she stepped away. Kelly L.
I'm here.
You wanna do a dashboard for us?
Sure.
Just one. Okay. Just one. Not dashboards, just one. And the last volunteer is to remind me that we actually did this assignment. So Chris, will you keep us honest? All right. So cool. So there's that. Value stream map. This is a technique used to document flow of information that's needed to create a product. So here's an example of it. So, the suppliers, they process things, they ship it, gets the customer. So value stream looks at, and another way of looking at it too is like, like raw materials to processing to distribution, and then it gets shipped to the customer. So from raw materials all the way to the customer's hand. So that's an example of, value stream. We talked about lessons learned, and for Agile, we call it what do we call it? Lessons learned? Retrospectives, right? And for Waterfall, what's the equivalent of retrospective?
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned. You got it. All right. So once you have those lessons learned, you can rank them according to importance or urgency. You can include them, right, into task if needed, or apply it to the next iteration. Conducting retrospectives, again, what went well, what could be improved, and try to give as much time to both. A lot of times, if it's an hour meeting, people spend what went well, 5 minutes, and then what went wrong, 55. Try to spend as much time dissecting success as you would dissect failure, right? Because there are lessons to be learned in each group. And then try to avoid assigning blame or pointing fingers. Just focus on what you can do differently if it's negative, and what we can do to continue if it's positive. And last but not the least, for retrospectives or with lessons learned, you want to document and capture it for future use. So, this is a good place to stop. And next week, we will tackle Module 4, Part B. And as always, before we go, let's have 3 shares, things that you learned, pick up, comments, anything, and we'll close for the day.
I enjoy the review of equations.
Said no one ever, but thank you, Kenny. Actually, there was one person that he was in accounting. That was the only part that he lit up. So thanks, Kenny. You're the second person in the 8-year history.
I learned configuration change as a product is related to product versus system. When I think of configuration, I think of system configuration.
Yes. Yeah. And change orders are more for the project. Awesome. Thanks, Alicia. And last one, and we'll call it a day.
I got one. The leaders do the right thing and management do the thing right.
Ooh, Victor for the win. Awesome, man. That's really good. And thank you, Chris, for artifacts versus project documents. And there's a third one. Let's answer that. So artifacts, project documents, and what do you hand over to someone? Starts with a D.
Deliverables.
Deliverable.
Yep. Just think of the physical,
Yeah.
FedEx or UPS. You're delivering it. You're handing it to someone. With that, thank you so much. We have 2 more left, and then we are done here, folks. Have a nice weekend and start doing your practice exercises. And yeah, we'll reconvene next Friday.
Ian, may I ask you a question?
Go for it.
Okay, does someone own that quote about the I'm driving, so I can't see my notes. Energy flows. You
Oh,
say because
yeah.
I'm going to use that. So because I'm going to use it on Monday, I need to make sure I give the appropriate recognition to whoever coined that phrase.
I actually don't know who originally said it. A lot of people have used it over the past, 20 years. Everyone from
Okay.
Tony Robbins to yeah. So a lot of people have